welcome to the meeting. We are so glad that everyone is here, and we're excited about this fantastic venue that we've been allowed to use today, and the tours and all that kind of stuff. First of all, how many of you are visiting today are not master gardeners? A couple back here, a couple back here, a couple over here. Thank you for coming. Hope you really enjoy this. And if any of you are interested in talking to us about the Master Gardening Program, talk to anybody around you, or find me at the back when the meeting is over with. I'll be glad to talk to you as well, but welcome. Thanks for coming. First of all, a couple of business things. Unclaimed anniversary badges and award pins. These are the ones from the meeting earlier this year. If you had one and you need to pick it up, those are now available at the AgriLife building on LBJ. So stop by there. These are not the ones that you may have personally ordered an extra one of. Those will be here at the August meeting. So these are just the ones from the meeting a couple of months ago. Second of all, the DCMGA Gifting Fund is accepting applications. So if you have a garden, a friend who has a garden that is there for the benefit of the community, or something that type of thing, that might need just a little helping hand with a few dollars to do something in their garden, please tell them about this and let them apply and see if we can't help them out with that gardening endeavor just a little bit. Deadline is August 15th for the applications for the fall giving. We have implemented text messaging, so welcome to this century. So you should have received a text or an email asking you to opt in to that. If you do not opt in, you will not receive text messages from the DCMGA. But if you prefer text messages over email, which I certainly do, be sure and handle that little bit of work to get that signed up for. It was sent on June 11th from communications@dallasmga.com if you need to search for it. And at the end of the meeting, Lorraine should be here, and Lorraine has helped us get all that set up. So Lorraine Hellinghausen will be here at the end. Stop by and see her. Lorraine, are you here yet? No? She should be here in a few minutes. Anyway, stop by and see her, and she can help you get opted into that if you're interested in doing so. Also, we're going to implement Sign Up Genius for these meetings. That's going to do a couple of things for the organization and a couple of things for you as well. One is, we have this meeting today in this wonderful facility, and we didn't know if we were going to have 10 people or 400 people. And as you can see, we have to get the chairs set up, we have to get food, we have to be prepared. So in order to help us a little bit with that preparation, we're going to ask that if you would kindly use the Sign Up Genius links. They will be in the Mark Your Calendar, and you may get them through text messaging and other means, but you can click on it, sign up. That does great things for the organization. And for you personally, it will help you if we happen to change the date or something happens we have to cancel, anything like that. We can notify you and let you know that plans have changed. So here we are, Museum of Biblical Art. Beautiful place. We've seen some wonderful things this morning and heard from some fantastic folks from Jesuit over here. But right now, Dr. Scott Peck is going to come up and speak to us. He's the director and the curator of the museum and the National Center for Jewish Art. And then afterwards, our own Jan Weir is going to come up and talk to us a little bit as well. So Scott, come on up, please.
Well, how honored we are to be with you today and have you here. I'm going to ask again, how many is their first time here to the museums? Wonderful. That makes me feel so good and gives me chill bumps, and for you to know what we've been striving for many, many years. And things just keep getting better. So many new things are happening. And of course, gardening is a big part of us that's going to continue to grow. I've even had a few of you say, I can't wait to hear the presentation by Jan Weir, because I think I might have a little of my own time to volunteer or to be a part of this too, and we would be so honored. I have the crew right now from Jesuit here up on the stage for a reason, because they are a symbol for this past year. They represent the approximate 100 students here for this past year that have volunteered for our Bible Garden and have volunteered at the museum. But not only do they represent those 100, but we've been doing this for 5 years. So they actually represent the 500 plus that have been working on that Bible Garden that you got a chance to experience, which, again, you're going to hear so many wonderful things from Jan Weir. So I would just ask you all to recognize them and clap and honor all these 500 Jesuit students. And we're so thankful. You guys are dismissed and go to the front desk, please. But thank you for doing that. But they're going to be on call because guess what? As an extra bonus, you're going to get a chance to roam about the museums when we're done. And I'm also going to have a special presentation on the resurrection mural. You guys know a lot about life and death. That's a big part of gardening and being a part of what you do every single day. And I have a couple of stories I want to share with you. I'm supposed to be like 8-10 minutes because, again, the keynote's going to be here in just a minute. Can't wait for you to hear our story from Jan Weir. It's amazing. But I get to talk to you a little bit. And I hope you're taking some really great souvenirs with you, meaning hopefully some cool life lessons. I hope you're also creating alliances, because that's what we did with Jesuit, creating an alliance with one nonprofit with another nonprofit. And I only took the job, meaning my volunteer time, because I said, I normally teach university students, graduate students and undergraduate students, and I told Jesuit, I said, I'll do this. I will go ahead and mentor your students and have them sit under Jan Weir and some of these other great teachers, but it's going to be college level. It ain't going to be high school. And boy, they just were ready to explode. And so I'd encourage you, a lot of you are working with other nonprofits, to find alliances. And I'm ready to ally with you, wherever your Bible Garden is. Let's see how we can work together, because we are stronger together for any kind. I consider gardening a social cause. And potentially can bring about social justice too. I use museum exhibitions to do that. I already talked to you about that. We talked about being pro-woman. I'm using art exhibitions to change us and be an architect. It's not a panacea, meaning a cure-all, but we're making a difference. How about respecting those who are older, the elderly, because we're all getting there. Look at me, look at you, look around the room, right? And if you haven't had somebody give you a funny look because you're older than them, or your body is not as strong as it used to be, because boy, as confident as you are right now, and I am, and I tell these Jesuit boys the same way, your bodies are like perfect, and you don't even know what it means to be tired yet. Boy, you will. But it's all where we're going. We're all going to the grave anyway, right? We're going into the dirt, same kind of dirt that we're working in every day. That's a reality check. Another thing is, where are you spiritually right now? And it doesn't matter what framework you're coming from, maybe that's something to be thinking about. And if we could be a trigger for that, that could be really cool. I'm going to tell you a story about Marc Chagall. And I'm going to tell you a story about Michelangelo. And then they're going to take the hook and take me off. This is my favorite Marc Chagall story. And when he was asked to speak publicly, he would almost always tell this story. And he would proudly proclaim when he came in front of a group like this, he would say, I was born dead. I was born dead. This is a really curious story, and I think it marked him for the rest of his life, and that's how we got who we got. Now, those of you who don't know who Marc Chagall is or was, he's still alive in my world. One of the greatest artists ever, and if you've ever taken art history class, you'll study him because he's stood the test of time, and he was alive when pretty much all of us were alive. He died in 1985, so I think all of us were alive. And And so we've crossed over in that sense. Some of his greatest achievements, the Hadassah windows of the 12 tribes in Jerusalem. If you've ever been to the Art Institute of Chicago, the gigantic windows there. We have one of his greatest achievements, which were these 100 etchings that are hand watercolored by Chagall. We have 58 of them up right now. Total opposite of what Chagall is known for. He's known for thick line and lots of color. So that show we saw in the Jewish Museum, that's like what we normally think of Marc Chagall. But these are real smudgy lines, and they're just little swatches of color, and they're really cool. I was born dead. What did he mean by that? So back in Chagall's day, when he was born in a little, what's now Belarus, but it was under Russian province. It was a little town called Vitebsk, and it was, in Yiddish, it's called a shtetl. Have you ever seen Fiddler on the Roof? I think everybody's nodding. If you haven't, you haven't lived yet. Go see that. It's important. If you really are a citizen of the world, and go see it live. Wow. Anyway, Jews were isolated, and they were in these old villages that you weren't even allowed to work with brick. It was primarily you were allowed to only work with wood. Why? Because it was easy to kind of move them out of the way and do all kinds of things, make it these temporary places in what were called pogroms, P-O-G-R-O-Ms, throughout Russia. Anyway, he's born in a shtetl. And shtetls were known for actually going up in flames. Why? Sometimes the fires were set on purpose to get the Jews out, make them becoming a little bit too successful, and let's get them out of there. But the other thing is there were fireplaces that were used to cook every day, and also when it was cold, for most of the time, you were keeping warm. So the day that Chagall was born, nursemaids, well, I'm blanking on the word. Midwives were there. There were 2 or 3 midwives there. And that night, incidentally, there were rumored to be fires around the shtetl. You may have to evacuate at any moment out of the home because it could torch up. And so they made sure they were prepared in case somehow a fire happened. So baby Chagall is there, the midwives are there, and he's coming out of the womb, and lo and behold, baby Chagall is not breathing. The midwives, they took baby Chagall and they took him by the ankles and dunked him into these buckets of water that they had because they were prepared for the fire until he started screaming. And he lived. And he would tell this story over and over and over again with this idea, I was born dead and came back to life. I have something really important to do with my life. And boy, did he do it. What about you? And what does that mean to you? I tell the students this, and even younger students too. Because we talk about a lot of life lessons, and part of a life lesson, understand, if you don't understand this, you really don't understand life. If you don't understand death, you have no clue of what life is all about. And for some of these students, again, perfect body, so that they don't think so, I got acne, but perfect body, young, male, right, good looking, typically white, everything is out there for them. Young men, think about this for a moment. You are going to die. You are going to die. And my gift to you today, and this is a gift for you too, start living the rest of this time, even for this meeting, as if you were going to fall over dead when Jan's done, and then Janet says goodbye, and Glenn comes up. How would you treat each other? How would you even listen differently? What about when you put your head on the pillow tonight? I tell the students, I go, do you say your prayers? How are you going to say your prayer differently if you knew this was the last prayer you're going to make? You kiss your mom good night. A lot of boys do. These high school boys, of course. I kiss my mom and my dad good night. What's that kiss going to be like if it's your last kiss? Then play the game. What if it's your last week? What if it's your last 6 months? What if it's your last year? And it changes too. But if you could live today, starting now, like right now, because we talk about being mindful. When I was a teenager, you know what that was like. Your emotions and your hormones are doing all kinds of weird stuff, and it's hard to control anything. I wish somebody taught me about mindfulness and living in the moment and actually being here. You guys know this because you know the miracle of life and death. You're gardeners. You know things the average person does not know. You know the secrets of creation, and don't take that for granted. Live it. Live as if you are dying. And I wouldn't doubt that there are a few of you that literally you're living with cancer or something's coming real quick, or heart disease. But what a privilege, even if everything's looking good, as if I could have that same kind of seriousness. Let me give you my Michelangelo story, and I'll close it up. What is so interesting about Michelangelo, which I'd consider maybe the greatest artist ever, why? He perfected 3 disciplines. Architecture, he designed St. Peter's, and other architectural things too. Think about painting. Can you imagine the Sistine Chapel? He was a master of painting. And then, of course, sculpture. The great David and the great Pietà. We have 14 exact casts taken right from Michelangelo's originals because of Mussolini. That's why we have these. All these came from the Michelangelo Museum in Florence, Italy. His last name was Buonarroti. Casa, House of Buonarroti, that's the Michelangelo Museum in Florence, and they came right to us. Here's what he believed. He believed that the sculpture actually already existed in the marble, and his goal was to find the sculpture. And you'll see in some of these, you can see where he just stopped because he didn't, and he said this quote over and over and over again. He stopped because he felt like, as God was leading, that was the sculpture that was there to be found. So I hope the other gift, not only do I want to give you a gift that you act differently from now, and it's going to take it, you're going to have to remind yourself, I need to live as if I am dying, as if this is my last time I'm going to kiss my honey goodnight, or the last little kind thing I'm going to do to my grandchild, or the last plant I'm going to plant. You're going to do it very differently and be mindful. But the other gift I'd like to leave with you is to live in the miraculous, to maybe see the unseen. I have so much respect for what you guys are doing. You are artists. Sure, you're master gardeners, but you are great master artists. Think of yourself that way, as the Michelangelo that's trying to find the sculpture that's already there that God created. What are you doing in those gardens? How are you conceptualizing it? And live that supernatural life that you were born to do, just like a Chagall. Born dead, born unto greatness, and that there's a specialness to you guys. And so I want to encourage you to do what? Keep up your credentials. We need you desperately as master gardeners. Mentor others. Reach out. Get more people to come to these kinds of events. Sure, I know, so some of you are like, okay, I'm just going because it's at that museum and I get a $20 admission for free. I get that. But let's pretend that wasn't the case and get them to go to the next events. Get out there, pay your dues financially, and also continue to give back, because if ever the world needed you and needed to understand the beauty of creation and the supernatural, it's now. So we're honored to have you. Afterwards, you can roam around the museums, and also we're going to have a special presentation on the resurrection mural too. So anyway, thank you so much. Keep up the great work. We believe in you.
Welcome. It's so lovely to see you, and I'm glad you're all here. And we've been looking forward to you being here. I'm going to talk some today about this garden project, and then I'm going to talk about the individual plants that we've been planting. But first, I'd like to start with a commercial. At the last meeting, you no doubt heard Glenn talk about the Garden Consult Group. I've been a member of the Garden Consult Group for a number of years, and to me, it's where I'm closest to the mission of the Master Gardeners. And we are going out, talking to people interested in starting gardens and helping them figure out what they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it. And it requires having someone with advanced training. So I encourage you to get your advanced training. And the reason I bring this up at the start is because this started out as a consult project. In 2022, Barry contacted us, and Gretchen and I think, and asked us to come out and meet with Scott Peck about starting a garden in the Sculpture Museum. And so we did the normal things, talked about water, and we also talked about volunteers, at which point we had kind of some brainstorming about possibly engaging Jesuit as the work crew, and things went from there. When they had everything ready, we were contacted again, and with the permission of the extension agent at that time, we became an agent project. And last year, I'm pleased to say, we became an approved project, which means you can come here and volunteer. The second thing I'd like to start with is from my Gardener's Bed book. Somebody gave me this at Christmas, and you read a small vignette every day. The first thing I want to share with you is a concept, and it probably echoes some of what Scott said, and that is that a garden is an arena. It's not just a place where you plant, but there are a lot of things that happen. Relationships form, you learn things, you try things, and in all of that, the garden is a totality of experience rather than simply watching a couple of plants grow. And I promise this is the only thing I'm reading. This is my second point, but it is on a horticulturist gardens. And I don't think I could say it better. Just as the sex of a hippopotamus is of interest only to another hippopotamus, so the garden of a horticulturist is of interest only to other horticulturists. For be it remembered that the landscaped garden, the garden planted to make pretty pictures irrespective of its plant material, is one thing, and the horticulturist quite another. In the latter, the interest centers in the plants themselves, and mine, I'm afraid, belongs to this category. I've seen the owners of picture gardens leave this place with their noses tilted up to the Empyrean and muttering, "My God," and he calls that a garden. And I've also seen horticulturists crouch in rapture before my one solitary plant. Though they're usually hectic jumbles, the gardens of horticulturists possess more personality than those that are professionally landscaped and are longer remembered. And so with that, I start my presentation that this is a horticulturist garden. I'd like to welcome everyone, and especially any interns who are here for the meeting for the first time. And I'd like to also thank the museum staff who've been so helpful, from Scott's constant support to the desk staff who go out and water the plants when we're not here, trying to keep them as we're getting them started. And I'd also like to thank the board. The board here has been very supportive of the garden, but particularly Bob Osteen, who not only takes people through the garden on a regular basis personally, but he also puts on his shorts and gets his tools out and works in the garden with the students. I have 45 slides today in 45 minutes, so particularly with this larger group, if you wouldn't mind holding questions. I undoubtedly have some errors in this, so if you'll just let me know later, I'll give you my contact information at the end. The beautiful statuary garden that you see was created with the statues of Gibbs Singleton. Hopefully you've had time to learn a little bit more. There's a video in the museum about Gibbs Singleton. He was trained classically at the Chicago Art Institute. He was recruited by the Vatican to work in their workshop. He designed the crozier that was carried by Pope John Paul II, Pope Benedict, and Pope Francis. And then he moved to the US, developing his style of emotional realism. And because of his interest in all things Western, he moved to Santa Fe, where he has the same statuary garden installed at the Basilica. If you've been to Santa Fe, that's the big building at the end of the street. The statues are the Via Dolorosa, or Way of Suffering, or Road of Pain. They are the 14 stations of the cross, outlining Jesus's final hours. You may look at our garden and find that it is unfinished, and that is correct. This is a 5-year project, and I think, Scott, it seems like it's been longer, but it's actually our 2-year anniversary was last month. So we've only been at this 2 months, or 2 years, and so we've got a bit to go. I'm not going to show you pretty pictures today because I get bored with pretty pictures. I want to see the real dirt, if you will. And so I'm going to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly of this garden. When we first met with Scott, the premise of the garden was to be plants from the Bible and plants from Israel. And that to me was frightening because I didn't know how to grow plants from Israel or the Bible. And I said, how about some Texas natives? Because I knew I had a shoe in there, and I knew that would be a lot easier. These are the pictures of what we started with. There's very little there except the tubing for the irrigation. And I want you to note, there are no weeds there. We have about 80 plants in the garden today. I'll talk about 30 of them. But I encourage you to come back over time and look at what blooms and explore the other 50. This is a hot garden. When we assessed it, we've got a lot of concrete, and it gets sun. The sun comes up. I think I've got a pointer. The sun comes up and crosses over. It's up over the garden most of the day, and then it goes to the back of the building and even hits the shady spots with a pretty intense sun. Today it's a little dry. We're working on irrigation. We've got one zone out, and we're always adjusting the irrigation and trying to meet city code at the same time. This is the layout of the garden. Hopefully you've had a chance to walk through it. It contains roughly 10 beds, and the walk-through in the front, all the way back, and the statues start about midway. The goals of the garden were to magnify the statues, to have points of interest throughout the year, for it to be easy to maintain, for we knew we were gardening with high school boys and we didn't need the complicated stuff, and also to be peaceful. A lot of times when I'm working in the garden, there'll be Bible studies or people just walking through and meditating, and we wanted to further that. Particularly challenging since we had a lot of concrete. We have lovely but pretty overpowering metal statues and big blocks of concrete holding them up. We wanted to be a really soft look. So we divided the garden into parts, and different members of our team took parts. So these are just some of the diagrams that were drawn in plant models. Everybody picked one bed, figured out plants that would go in there, and then we had to figure out how to do that. And it was challenging because when I garden, I know what plants I know. When other people give me a plan, there were a whole lot of new plants to me that I had to learn, and we kind of have had to work our way through. The Discovery Garden helped us tremendously with an order of plants that were native, and also we kind of knew that would be a shoe-in. As far as trying to get them to grow, there were plants we couldn't find and we had to substitute. And then the rest of them, we went on a search through the neighborhood and through everybody's gardens and pulled things that we could find. But I shouldn't have worried, because what I didn't realize at the time was that Dallas's latitude is smack dab in the middle of Israel's latitudes. And for the same reason that you don't grow French lavender, but you grow Spanish lavender, the fact that these are on the same latitude really gave me a lot of advantage. And in fact, what you're going to hear over and over in this presentation is a lot of the plants that grow in Israel are Texas natives, and a lot of the plants that are Israel natives grow well in Texas. Of course, Bible plants are mostly in Israel. Israel has a varied topography. There are some desert areas and also some wetlands. Plants also have many names. That was helpful. It was like I'd see a list of names and go, yeah, we can use that one. That one works. The garden is, of course, in partnership with the seniors at Jesuit College Preparatory School. This relationship has been great, and the relationship between Jesuit and the museum have resulted from this starting point. We have a lot of fun when we garden. The guys always come ready to go and learn. I like to show this one picture in the middle because I never see them clean. But they were able to, last year, have an event where their parents were here and they got to walk their parents through the garden. But I don't baby these guys. They're there to garden. I'm there to teach them. I tell them what they need to do, and they get out and do it. Most of them have not gardened ever. The ones who've gardened have been gardening under a lot of constraint, where they go, you plant this here, let me watch you. And I tell them how to do something, and they go do it. And the guys in this garden have done everything. This is really their garden. They have, as this picture shows, put in irrigation. They've moved the rocks. They've moved the benches. They've weeded. They've mulched. They've planted plants. And they really have done the whole garden experience. The other garden I work with also has teenage boys, and I just have to say, I raised a girl, and I'm learning a lot. These guys love working outside. They love working with large tools. I notice that when I give them a shovel, a little hand shovel, I go back and they're using the big shovel. The challenges are that we work with school schedule. April, as you know, is a big gardening month. It's actually prom, followed by graduation, and then we've got a new set of kids. So that's a little bit of a challenge, and so if you see unweeded areas in our garden and unmulched areas, summer school. The garden would not happen without the volunteer team that we've got, and so I want to take a second to give thank yous. The design team, Vera Gillen, Maggie Saucedo, Vicki Cartwright, Lynn Prude, Gretchen Reynolds, Lori Drupp, and Susan Flanagan. And the volunteers who are out there literally in the weeds. on a regular basis. Vera Gillen, Vicki Cartwright, Lynn Prude, and I also want to give credit to a new intern who's working with us. I'm not sure if she's here today, Norma Masu, and she's done a tremendous amount of research that's going to allow us to move to some additional plants as we go forward in the next 3 years. And Debbie, can you stand? Debbie is our volunteer coordinator. She probably puts more hours in than I do. She's got great plant ideas. She's not a master gardener. She should be. Work on her before you leave. It was so interesting to me how many different design ideas people had in the garden. Not only the plant selection, but just the approach to it. I personally have never gotten past that phase as a master gardener of saying, look what I can grow. And I love all those things that pop up in the garden. I think I fall on the horticulturist end. But fortunately, my team has reined me in and have persuaded the planting of long stretches of particular plants. And I think the effect of that is really magical and peaceful. So if you see a long stretch, that's the team. And if you see something pop up, that's me. Next, I'm going to talk about the categories, and I put plants in the categories according to which criteria they meet. But I think you will argue with me on it because it's really arbitrary, because many of these plants fall in 2, if not 3 of the categories. I'm not going to read the information from our research, but I'll talk about how the plant does. These are the plants from the Bible. And we've taken some creative license here. We're still continuing our research, and I would say that this is our interpretation of plants of the Bible. The aster. This aster is a Texas native. It grows in Israel, and it's in the Bible, star. These were donated by Vera Gillen. I think there are 4 plants there. This is one of the most spectacular features of the garden in the fall. It's right when you walk in, and it's just a mass of purple now that I've removed the cattail. There's one acanthus in the middle that we wanted for some summer color and variation, but they've just done so well, I think we're going to move the acanthus. They require no care, which is A+ on my list. Fig tree. I have a big fig tree in my backyard, and so this is one of my personal favorites. Not a Texas native. This plant does grow in Israel, and it's referenced actually quite frequently in the Bible. And it is one of the raffle items today. I propagated it. I don't know what kind it is, but I think it may be everbearing. It's got a dark purple fig. You can see right now they're laden, and it produces figs until the end of the season. When we started the garden 2 years ago, these trees looked terrible. I had cut mine down after freeze again because it just died, and it completely came up from the ground and was bigger. So taking a bit of a gamble, we went and cut these trees down. So those fig trees you see out there are 2 years old. We had a bit of an overwater on one of them. It slumped. And so I'm going to start, I think we've got the irrigation problem taken care of, and so we're going to start taking the straight branches and cutting out the gnarly ones. The lamb's ear is one of those plants that scared me. I have never had good luck with it. And now I realize it was because I put them in park shade. These are hot sun plants. We started with a very small patch, the pictures above, of the lamb's ear, put it in. This is a 2-year growth. We've already had the boys thin it out and move it to about 3 other areas of the garden. It is an Israel plant, and it's also in the Bible concept. And we really wanted it because it matched one of the names of the statues. Marigold. This plant was introduced to Debbie and I at the Raincatcher's plant sale. We put 2 on the side. The fig trees kind of covered that one. This is not supposed to be here at all. And we dug it all up, and as you can see if you walk out, it's all been replaced by marigold, Mexican mint marigold. But it is also one of the stellar plants of the fall. And I think this picture captures that. And I do love the biblical meaning, which I've had marigolds all my life, and I didn't know it. It stands for Mary's gold, which was either used to buy passage to Egypt or for paupers. It has a good spread. It spreads around it, but it doesn't spread far, unlike some of the other plants we've got. Which brings me to mint. Texas native, planted in Israel, mentioned in the Bible. This is my favorite story of working with the Jesuit boys in the garden. I had mint in a horse trough at home. I dug it out completely, or so I thought. A year later, that bed was full of mint. I knew we needed mint, so I pulled all the roots out. I threw them in a rectangular container. I threw dirt on it, and then I just left it alone for about 3 weeks. Then I took it to the work day, and there were 2 guys who were going to plant the mint along the wall. And I handed them a rectangular container which had 2 leaves coming up at that point, and I said, plant this mint along the long wall. And they looked at me like I'd lost my mind. I said, make 2 rows. And they did. I said, loaves and fishes. You need a concrete boundary. And this is not in the raffle because you already have it or you're going to get it soon. Papyrus. This is a wetland plant. These 2 starts that are in the garden actually came out of my pond. They were very small plants. In a very short period of time, in a matter of months, they were, you couldn't put your arms around the base of them. We tried to dig some up and plant them in August when we saw how well they did, but that was not a good time to plant. So spring is probably a better transplant time for that, but that's on our long-term plan. And you'll note in this picture, there is a little frog fruit there. I'll talk about frog fruit later. The Rose of Sharon, we're just starting. They are biblical plants. They're neither native to Texas nor Israel, but they are hardy, and they have beautiful flowers. And all the starts that we have came from shoots from other people's yards. We're getting ready to cut the tops so we can make them bush out as soon as we are sure they're all established. Okay, the wormwood, which I had no experience with, is a plant of Israel and also a biblical plant. But you also see it in the nurseries here quite frequently and in several different forms. This really struggled the first year. This picture shows the second year, which was beautiful. And then the frog fruit came, and so if you'll notice there are a couple of sprigs of this and frog fruit all around it. So that's one of our next tasks, is to pull the frog fruit out of the wormwood. It's a good spreader, moderate. It's spread in the garden but not to other gardens. Now I want to talk about the plants from Israel and note that the plants, many of the plants common to Israel are common to Texas. Angel trumpets or datura have always been among my favorite plants. Once you get one started, it just creates a large bush. And so the concept was to put this in the white garden and start a hydrangea in the middle. If you walk the garden today, you'll see datura starts absolutely everywhere. We have had a hard time for some reason starting it in the garden it's supposed to be in. I don't know why that is. So we've transplanted several times. I think I finally have some going that will take over the garden and make it look like this, and then we'll pull up the rest. But I'm kind of hanging on to what's there just to make sure I've got enough to get those started. It is Texas native, comes in red and white. I think there's the Discovery Garden contributed 2 red ones. There are also ones that I started from seed. I wasn't sure if I could start those from seed, but they've done very well. Daffodils. The daffodils are not Texas natives, and it's a question whether they're biblical. There's a reference to Shabbat Sileth in the Old Testament, and also to a plant believed to be a daffodil in the Song of Solomon. But you know me, I love those unexpected blooms, and it's a great color when nothing else is blooming. So we've kind of dropped in a variety, including the Salome daffodil, throughout the garden. This was an interesting plant that I had never worked with. I'd seen it at a garden before, and I wasn't sure about it. We got a bunch of very small cuttings from the Discovery Garden, and when we went and looked at it for the first 2 months, everybody who was working there said, "I hate this plant. I hate it." And then one day we went, and it looked like the picture on the left, and we went, "We love that plant." It is a hardy spreader. I think that's the best way. It doesn't show up in many other gardens except where it's right adjacent. It does a great job of keeping out the weeds. We hardly had any weeds to pick out this year. But the inverse of that is we can hardly keep any plants growing. The Zexmania or oxeye daisy does really well. It's about to kill the artemisia. And I just realized that I'm trying to grow passion vine there. It's turning white. It's never done really well, and I'm thinking, maybe I need to move it out of the frog fruit. But if you have like a parkway, easy to start. It just takes a trimmer once or twice a summer. Really what the maintenance we should have done on it was giving it a really hard haircut about February or March. But the first year we forgot. The second year our trimmer broke, so next year come back and take a look at it. I love hyssop, and it has a very significant role in the Bible. So there is actually a garden that's devoted to hyssop. The first hyssop I wanted was true hyssop, and that's the one on the left. I planted 3 packages of seeds for true hyssop. I got 1 plant. And this is a weird thing to me in the garden. When I plant seeds, they always end up in the corner, right where the concrete comes to an L. So we had this beautiful hyssop plant. It was covered in bees. Covered. I challenge any Texas native to have as many bees. And then unfortunately in the spring, someone stepped on it and broke it. And so Debbie and I did a Hail Mary, and we just said, let's just plant it anyway. And it survived. So it's in the middle of the garden, the hyssop garden. I also have catnip hyssop. I haven't done a lot of research on this, but I think hyssop is like this catch-all category. If you don't know what it is, just call it hyssop. But this is a catnip, the one on the bottom, and that's actually really beautiful, a great bee producer that came from Gwen, the plant lady in Edgewood, New Mexico. And I've just started a butterfly mint hyssop, and it's intensive care right now, so hopefully it'll come up and look like the one at the top. Depending on the type of hyssop, It may be native. I do have a Jerusalem sage. We put it in one garden. It was doing well but hadn't bloomed, but it had put out a number of plants, and we decided when we removed the art installment at the very back that we would move the Jerusalem sage and separate it. Unfortunately, 2 of the plants didn't make it, and 2 more were gone after the weeding session, but we still have 1, and it looks really healthy there. It's a really hot place, and I'm hoping for blooms this year. It is a plant of the Bible, and it is also a plant of Israel. There are 2 types of Jerusalem sage. One is an upright and one's a flat one. I'm sure there's a more scientific name for that. But they are, the one we used was the one that's a spreading. And we also, just for the name, have a Jerusalem thorn, and it's in one of the back lawn gardens. And so we got it at the Discovery Garden, and so I'm not sure how that's going to work. And if you see a plant that you want to pull up because it looks kind of thorny, don't do it. We're working on that one. We thought oats would be not only a little difficult but also unattractive to grow. So we went with inland sea oats. And initially I dug some up in the neighborhood and they were too big. They were hard to transplant. Debbie had some little root ones in her backyard, and that's where these have come from. They are always spectacular, very showy in the fall. But what we've learned is it is a aggressive spreader. And so while we failed to take the seed heads off last fall, that's going to be part of our normal maintenance routine. Sea oats are Texas native, Bible plant. Oats, they grow in Israel. Passion vine, of course, is a Texas native. It's in the Bible. It's a Bible concept, and it grows in Israel. There are a lot of varieties, and we have used the common one that's native here. And it's struggling with the frog fruit, but I think we will be moving it. The pomegranate tree, there are 2. We're here. One is in the sun and the other's in the shade. And not too surprisingly, the one in the shade is not producing flowers. But we're hopeful that we'll get some fruit from the one that's in the sun. It is a Bible plant, and it's also grown very commonly in Israel. Rosemary, also a Bible plant and grows in Israel. And this is another one. This is probably the one that scared me the most. When we first came in, there was one big section in the middle, and a lot of it was dead. And then because of a freeze that we'd had, the sides, both toward the building and away from the building, had just died. So we had to replant it. It scares me because while rosemary is supposed to be the easiest thing to grow, I can never seem to grow it. And so putting in a big row right in the front of the building didn't thrill me. We went to Redenta's, found some $2.99 rosemary, stuck it in, and waited for it to grow. It did well, much to my chagrin. And late last June, and this is an odd time to cut something, which is why I mention it, I went and did a trimming to take out the dead and even it up. So I think, if you'll look at that as you leave, I think that actually worked out pretty well. So we're keeping our fingers crossed on that one. Rue. How many of you are familiar with rue and grow it? Oh, a lot of you. Great. It was a new plant to me. It's a biblical plant. It has a ceremonial role, and it's also the home of swallowtails. We had it for a while in a dry place, and that's where we're working on the irrigation. So that is now moved to the back. And if you have not walked to the back of the building behind the last statue, that's where the St. John's wort and the rue are, and they are doing very well there. Easy to grow, hot sun, a pretty moderate cedar, Texas pollinators. The acanthus, which comes in yellow and red, is scattered throughout the garden. It's been a great grower and color interest. It doesn't really spread. It is a Texas native biblical plant and also a plant grown in Israel. Frostweed. Frostweed is the best pollinating plant. When we had monarchs this past year, it was covered. I've never seen that many monarchs in a single place. This was just one snap of one bush. They were like literally all over the garden. It was amazing. And the following week, when the monarchs had gone, there was a different set of butterflies all over it. Now for the thing about frostweed. It's a spreader. This was probably the worst spreader because we planted it the first year, had a lot of flowers. We didn't cut the heads. It was everywhere. I mean, it was in the front, and this is put in the back. And so there were so many frostweed, and it's like, oh, it's so beautiful that, it ended up killing our hydrangea in the white garden, and pretty much was like a full-time job for somebody to just pull frostweed. So last fall, when the boys were having their work day, we went and cut all the heads. And we've not had that problem. There are a few, but not as many. So if anybody needs any frostweed seed, I am the source. Of course, the irises are lovely and very varied. The first two of these came from a woman who has a business near Fair Park, and I always look at her irises when that's iris season in the spring and see what colors she has. And so I stopped one day and asked if she would donate some plants. I took 5 plants of each. In the 2 years they've been there, they have really expanded probably to 20 plants. And to me, those orange ones are about the prettiest things in the garden. Vicki and Lynn wanted blue irises, and I thought, well, where do you find those? And so I put a request on Nextdoor, and a woman in Rockwall called me, and she said, hey, my grandfather used to have these really great irises that are blue, and I need them thinned. So I went with my bucket and thinned her irises. We put a few, Vicki and Lynn did, straight out in a long line on one of the long gardens. And they did great the first year, but this year they were spectacular. The rock rose, of course, is a Texas native, grows in Israel. The picture on the top is our rock rose from the garden. The picture on the bottom is a picture of an Israeli rock rose. At juvenile detention, they have rock roses all over, and they have no problems. Here, we've had to struggle with them a little, and I'm not quite sure why. And then about 2 weeks ago, a bug got after them and ate all the leaves. So I think I've got them on the recovery, but I'm not sure. So if anybody knows a trick with rock rose, please let me know. We have several types of salvia in the garden. We have the Henry and Augusta Duelberg, both in the front and in the back garden. We have mealy sage by the fig trees, and also it was behind the front wall and along one of the wall near the long wall near the building, but those were outcompeted a bit. The Salvii gregi, which is the red sage, has done great. what I didn't realize when I bought them is that there are different colors of red. And so we've been debating on how to kind of manage them, because sometimes it's very obvious that they are not the same color. St. John's wort, as I indicated, is in the back. The Texas Star hibiscus, I've also planted from seed. We've got white and red, white in the white garden and red in the red part of the garden. They do great. The thing that I've learned about Texas Star hibiscus is there's always that one storm in the spring, and it comes through and about half of your branches are gone, and that means you lose half of your blooms. So I just take some twine, and as they grow through the spring, I band them, and they seem to be doing fine. That's my theory. Vervain. We have two kinds of vervain. One is I think it's a Mock Dakota, which is on the right. The one on the left is a slender leaf, and it's a volunteer, but it takes the heat so well. I've never had vervain. I love it. It really takes dry. It continues to spread slowly, and it's always blooming and always a bee hub. There are a couple of other plants of note as you walk through the garden, and then I'll be finishing up. The cestrum is one of my favorites. I don't know why everybody doesn't have one, but they're really rare. They're hard to find, although they're very easy to propagate. They bloom to a full-size bush. The only thing I have to do to it during the summer is cut it back, and then I cut it back in the fall. And then after the winter, it's either dying to the ground and I snap the branches off and it grows up from the roots, or it's not been a harsh winter and it starts blooming. It's always the first bloomer in our yard. Greg's Blue Mist has been a heavy performer for us, always covered in butterflies, always blooming. And again, a long sweep of color on one of the long gardens. Tuberose. I had only seen tuberoses in flower bouquets, so I didn't really think we could grow them here. So I had a deal on an order for tuberoses from one of the garden companies, and I ordered 3 and I brought 1. This is one bulb that I planted 2 years ago. People are on the fence in their reviews because half of them said this is a beautiful plant, and the other said it never grew a shoot for me. And so the picture that's in the middle is actually the first bloom we had, and it came up about 8 hours before we had a freeze of under 20 degrees for 3 days. I thought, oh, I really wanted to see that. But no worries, the one out there right now has about 7 shoots. They'll bloom, they'll die, and then you'll have another round in about 6 weeks. It's a great plant, and there is a tuberose in the raffle. And the white rain lily. When the Jesuit student who planted these, he planted them like way far. He had these like little, like single slips, and he planted about 8 inches from the border. And boy, am I glad he did that, because they have filled in. They have really become large. They're rain flowers like sage. They sit there, and then when it rains, they go, ah, and then all the flowers come out. Another plant of note is a survivor tree. This was here when we came. It is the Calorie pear tree, which is a fruitless. It was the only tree left to survive at the Ground Zero site. This was propagated, the plant in the garden was propagated from that tree. And the weeds. Did I mention weeds? We have, I realized once we put the mulch in and compost in the mulch and started fertilizing and gave it water, that all those seeds that have been in gardens past have started coming up. And I actually, it's like what most of my pictures are pictures of weeds. So we look for the worst offenders, which I call the felons, and we take those out first. So I wanted to finish with an invitation for you to come and join us We garden periodically, kind of when the Jesuit students have that in their schedule. And we always have a good time. And we've got plenty of weeds. Don't worry about it. As I promised, here is my contact information. And I have a do and a don't. Whatever you do as a gardener this year, do not buy mint, datura, frostweed, COs, frog fruit. We've got you covered. And do contact me. I know everybody has experience with different plants and ideas for new plants to put in the garden, which we love. Contact me. These are all my this is all my contact information. Don't call me today. But I look forward to talking with you and hearing your ideas, and hopefully we'll see you at the garden soon.
Thank you so much, Jan, and thank you, Dr. Peck. I don't think he's in here right now, but thank you, Dr. Peck, for that presentation as well. Let me just remind you that we do not have a meeting in July. Our next meeting will be Saturday, August 23rd, 11:30 at the Texas AgriLife Research Center on North Court Road. And Rusty Allen from North Haven Gardens is going to talk to us about water gardening. Folks, that's a wrap. It was a long meeting, but thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the museum and have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much.